Now, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Mr. Armstrong.
During the Cold War, jazz was a powerful instrument of American cultural diplomacy. It transformed superpower relations and helped shape the image of democracy in the world, especially for those living under Soviet communism and in Eastern Europe. A U.S. government-sponsored program sent jazz ambassadors around the world, among them such well-known musicians as Louis Armstrong, Dizzy Gillespie, Benny Goodman, Duke Ellington, and Dave Brubeck. From the 1950s to the 1970s, they toured more than 35 countries in the former Soviet Union, Eastern Europe, the Middle East, Africa, and Asia. Their music dramatically influenced the perception of the United States, promoting a positive view of America and easing Cold War tensions.
No one traveled back then. If you think about sort of normal people, who in 1956 or 7 or 8 got on an airplane and went to Burma? It just was unheard of, or to Thailand. These were romantic locales for most people. And so the jazz ambassadors were really quite famous. They were really hailed as America's diplomats musically. And the legacy that they left is still valid.
Curtis Sandberg is vice president for the arts at the Meridian International Center and the curator of an exhibit called Jam Session, a musician's term for an impromptu performance. The exhibit, sponsored by the U.S. State Department, will travel to countries around the world over the next 3 years. It contains 100 photographs from 22 years of the Jazz Ambassadors program.
These guys were remarkable. They braved danger, sickness, really tough tours. And they were kept out very often for upwards of 3 months, under some pretty grueling conditions, and they were heroes.
The legacy of the original jazz ambassadors still lives through a modern-day State Department program called Rhythm Road, which blends different forms of music from jazz and blues to Cajun and hip-hop. Its mission is to share America's unique contribution to the world of music and to promote cross-cultural understanding. Maura Pally, the State Department's acting Assistant Secretary of Educational and Cultural Affairs, says cultural diplomacy remains extremely important in today's world.
Cultural diplomacy offers us a really unique way to connect with people that we otherwise wouldn't. And art and music in particular really transcends religious, political, language divides in a way that nothing else does.
Penny Fonashen is a history professor at the University of Michigan. She says cultural diplomacy should be a model for international relations in a world that has too often been overrun by wars and hostility.
It's a lesson to many countries to open up and have far more cultural exchange and make that a priority for diplomacy, and that remains as relevant today as it would have been in the 1950s and 60s.
As music remains an important part of U.S. public diplomacy, the newest generation of jazz musicians is coming to the stage. 9-year-old Jeffrey Galante started performing when he was 5 years old. He has played with the Duke Ellington Orchestra and is the youngest jazz instrumentalist ever to perform at the Washington's Kennedy Center for the Performing Arts and at the White House.
Well, I got to play with the president's own piano player, so that was pretty cool. I didn't play for President Bush because I think he was on a trip to Iraq. It's a cool style of music, I think, and I want to keep doing it.
This new generation of jazz artists will continue to carry the torch of mutual understanding in the world, passed down by the original jazz ambassadors. Amra Alirejsovic, VOA News, Washington.